Hello everyone, SilverContrail here doing another Article Aftermath video. This is, I don't even know what week this is, we're somewhere in there. This week talking about last week's article, of course, being Side Deck Theory Passing Judgment, which was all about Judgment of the Light and some of the new stuff in that set that I thought was really cool, and how it applies to the side deck going forward. Of course, whenever we have a new set, we've got a lot of new cards that change the way we look at siding. Before I get into that, I want to talk about a couple of other things. First of all, we're in the middle of ban list season. There's some ban lists that are floating around. There's particularly one that's been kind of on the forefront of everyone's minds for the last 2 days or so. I went up yesterday. I saw Jeff Jones post it, then I saw Cordero post it, and then I saw it on Pojo, and then I kind of see it everywhere. It's the one with all four of the Baby Dragon Rulers banned, and then I think Public of Judgment banned. The one with Trishula coming back. Right now, I would have to say I'd give it about like a 50-50 shot of being true. Probably 75% chance that it is missing a couple of cards, or a couple cards will be changed, but that most of it will remain the same going in. But we'll see. Definitely we're going to see it on the 20th, in case you guys didn't hear. On the 20th of August, we will be getting the list right then. Kevin Twart told us. And yeah, so that's that. Hopefully you guys had fun watching Worlds. That was pretty cool. I did not watch the final match. I watched it later, and because I had to get up, because I had sat down to watch the games at like noon, and then it was like 8 o'clock, and I was still watching them, so I was like, nope, I think I'm going to go do something else. So anyways, Lord of Tachyon. They have this labeled wrong. Judgment of the Light came out, and there's a couple of key cards in here that people have been looking for. Stuff like Rooster, Wolfbark, Star Eater. Those are the money cards. Fortunately, they're not very expensive. If you look at stuff like Rooster, sitting at $52, that's not really that high. In fact, if you pull it, you don't pay for your box. So that's really tough. I think Bujin Yamato is probably the best thing you can pull right now. Even Transmodify is going down. I actually told myself if it went down below 15, I would pick up a playset. So I am waiting on that, and I will certainly do it should that time come around, because I think it's a really freaking cool card. So let's see, what else is there? I think that's it. Okay, so let's talk about last week's article. Some of the comments. I talked about... what did I talk about? Basically, Xyz Encore and some of the Cosmoblazer archetypes coming back for a second round. First of all, Xyz Encore, I wrote something wrong in there. I said that it special summons to your side of the field, the person who used the card. That's not true. It special summons back to your opponent's side of the field, those monsters that were detached. So, yeah, like... that was just me writing it incorrectly, and I just forgot. I was writing it late last night, and I was like, yeah, of course it special summons to some side of the field, and for some reason I wrote the person who activated it, and that is very clearly not true, if you read the card. But whatever. It's, I think it's a really solid card. I definitely got some people, one person in particular who comments on a lot of stuff. I see him all the time. He's pretty cool. Talking about overhyping it, and there's a lot of people who think it's a good card, a lot of people who think it's not really that exciting. What I like about it is the non-chaining part. That is what is really cool about it, because there's nothing for your opponent to do. It's unresponsive. You can't respond to it. And for me, that's a huge deal, because your ways of protecting these cards is by having all of these chainable outs, or safe zone. But Safe Zone has to be activated preventatively. Preventatively. Yeah. Something. A word that I can't think of right now. Has to be activated before, Xyz Encore is used. Not because you can't chain to it, but because even if you could chain to it, you can't chain to it after it's already been targeted and then not get targeted because it's already been targeted. Xyz Encore, I think, is really solid. That said, it does have its drawbacks, including the special summoning back to your opponent's side of the field. There are ways to exploit that. There are ways you can't exploit that. a lot of different options there, but I think at least for dealing with Ophion, at least for dealing with Evil Swarm, it's not that bad. Maybe I think it's really problematic if you tried to play it against Constellar, mostly because Constellar Kaus is really good. They could bounce back from that. But I think against Evil Storm specifically, you could probably get away with it. But it just depends, like what you're able to run. If you're running a really aggressive deck and you can't afford to just like set things like Compulses and uh, Venus Chains or Breakthrough Skills, whatever, it just takes too long. Exceeded Encore might be the card for you because, like, if I'm playing a really aggressive OTK deck and I open up with really solid, like if you're playing Lavels and you open up with the Nuts and they've got an Ophion on their board, of course you're going to want to go Exceed Encore, strip your materials. Okay, now I'm going to go off because you can't stop me. That's really good. Like I mean, it's hard to say that there isn't anything else that's better than that. It doesn't really get any better. And so it's really good in these very, very aggressive strategies that want the quick play spell. They want a quick play spell that strips those materials and then goes for it. And I think that's really good for those applications. So Xyz Encore, yeah, it's not the best card, but it's pretty solid. And I think if you're looking for something to fit that use, to get rid of Ophion at least strip it of its materials, and then you can kind of make your play for that turn, it's probably one of your best bets, if not the best bet. So that's what I think about that. Now, of course, we've got Cosmo Blazer stuff returning with a bunch of new fire monsters, or a bunch of old fire monsters actually making their return. Stuff like Wolfbark and Rooster coming back finally, so Fire Fists have a little bit of an easier time competing. But, of course, with the ban list having potentially a Rooster on it as limited, we'll have to see where that goes. Don't know anything about Tenki. If that goes anywhere, we'll see. But, yeah, and Yaksha coming back. I don't know about Fire King. I think it's a nice strategy, but again, Ophion is just a pain. It's really... You look at all these strategies and it's like Ophion exists. It's a very relevant matchup. It's going to continue to be a relevant matchup, I think, even if dragons are hit. And it's just a really problematic. Ophion itself is a really problematic card for a lot of these strategies, and we'll have to see how they get past them. And certainly, well, I guess to a certain extent, at least 4-axis doesn't really care about Ophion, and 3-axis, of course, has access to Blaster usually, which is probably one of my favorite reasons. Probably one of my favorite things about that deck. Fire Kings, of course, you're going to Blaster too, so Blaster is really important for those decks, and I like that. Of course, Master Key Beetle is a thing I talked about in my article. I really do not like that card because of what it does with Safe Zone, but it's whatever. So, yeah, is that all I talked about? Yeah, I talked about some of the cards that were going to come in and out of favor. Stuff like Macrocosmos, Dimensional Fissure, Goes in Match Rivalry. Goes in Match is going to continue to be kind of a meh card, especially with dragons on their way out. If they do get kicked out of the way, Goes in Match is going to be pretty bad unless plants or some kind of synchrocentric deck decides to fill that void. Like even if you look at maybe Dragunity filling that void, which they certainly can do, and I think it would be smart to not underestimate that deck. Even if Dulce tried to do that, Constellar, all of these decks are one attribute. So Gozen's not really that great. Rivalry, on the other hand, is really good. Like, it's really, really, really good. It just shuts off so many decks, and guess who can play it? Fire Fist. So those decks, Rivalry is probably going to be one of the more important side deck cards you're going to have to be able to shut off. And there are definitely ways to get around that. But we'll have to see what happens. Definitely wouldn't be setting Gozen in the next format unless you know you're going to play against a lot of multi-attribute decks, but it'd be very rare for that to happen. As far as I can see, even the Bujins are all light, as far as I know. And then also Macrocosmos, Dimensional Fissure. Dimensional Fissure being played in 4-axis potentially. And then Macro. I think Macro is going to be pretty good. If the play of Imperial Iron Wall goes down, so we've seen a lot of Imperial Iron Wall play. If that declines, we're going to see way more Macrocosmos showing up in the main deck because it's just really good against everything. And I'd have to say, I guess it wouldn't be the greatest against like Constellar or Evil Swarm, but you do shut off certain cards that they have too. So there's that. If I were playing Constellar or Evil Swarm, I'd be trying to play either around macro or with macro myself. And I think that's about it for this week. I do have, of course, in the background, I have some matches playing and just some casual duels that I was playing with mechas as I was trying stuff out. And I don't want to let that go on for too long. But, yeah, that's about it. Next week, or this week, the article I'm attaching it to, is all about Mecha Phantom Beasts. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. It's so much fun to play. And I wouldn't get too attached to the build that I make, because I'm constantly changing how I play that deck, what I have in it. In my opinion, one of the best things you can do is just try a lot of things. You know, I was playing the Atmosphere in it for a while, and depending on the ban list, we could be seeing a lot more Plasma coming up, which I'm really excited for, if that ends up happening. And there's a lot of different ways to play it, stuff with Scramble, stuff with Transmodify, lots of cool stuff. So I would definitely recommend, if you're interested at all, pick the deck up, give it a shot. It's a lot of fun. If Dracossack keeps going down, it's a lot of fun. If you can get your hands on a Dracossack. If you can't, there are alternatives. Dracossack is a really good card to make. Number 74 is okay, though. In fact, I would say pretty dang good in the deck. And what else is there? You've got the new rank 10, the Sky Palace, in Number Hunters. It's actually pretty solid, too. So I would definitely look into the deck. Lightning Chidori, actually, I make Lightning Chidori more than I make Dracossack in that deck. But, you know, it just depends. You could even make it rank 6. You could even focus on rank 6s instead and make Strike Balancer an M7. So there's a lot of ways you can go with that deck. I think it's really cool what you can do. And all the ways you can run it. You can run it with Tempest, you can run it with Machinas, you can run it with Karkuri, you can run it with their new 7 that's coming out next set, which is pretty cool, Griffin. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do. It's cool. It's cool. You can make Star Eater too, and that's always nice. Can't really make Trishula that well. Gotta work on that. Trishula comes back, we gotta work on that. But anyways, that's it for me. Yeah, that's it. I keep thinking I'm missing something. I think we're good. Thanks for watching, and until next time then.